Hello dear viewer, riffraff enthusiast Murdoch X here, and we've got about 30 items to get through, so there's no time for my wittiness. Let the video begin! First up is Thunderstrike Operation Phoenix. This is a helicopter sim that feels a little bit like an Ace Combat game, but it wasn't tickling my fancy. At a Metacritic score of 65, it seems like that's how everyone else felt too. Next up, we have The Hobbit. I already own this terrible game, but my copy was missing something. The collectible card. We're not entirely sure how many of these cards exist, but we think that there are 6. And by we, I mean me and the guy who's helping me track variants. Also, we bought PlayStation2.org in hopes of tracking variants, so if you got some spare time, go ahead and check that out. There's not much there, but we're working on it. Also, I make it sound like I'm doing a good job of tracking variants. I'm not. It's this other guy that I'm working with, allkaps. He's done the majority of the work by like a lot. So hopefully we can get this website up and running to track all of this interesting PlayStation 2 stuff. On to the next game, which is also a variant. I picked up this copy of Ultimate Spider-Man Limited Edition off of eBay. Look how shiny that is. Dust cover. Very nice. This is a classic Spider-Man style of game. Our favorite superhero is web-slinging and swinging and singing vocals while freeing the locals, like he do. It's a fun game, but I hear the campaign is short. You know, I suppose that's the benefit of buying PlayStation 2 games right now. It's not like I paid full price for this game. And here's some non-games that I recently added to my collection, including a Disgaea 2 graphic novel and a Disgaea 2 construction game. I'm pretty sure that there are 2 different guides that came out for Disgaea 2, and this is the inferior one. Double Jump Books was kind of not great, but this one's a lot thicker than the first one they released for the original Disgaea, so maybe it's better. I remember the first Disgaea one and how it was kind of not that useful. When it comes to buying guides, my general rule is to only buy them if they cost less than $5, and the best place that I can usually find them for that price is at half-price books in their clearance section, which is never in the same place because half-price books will usually have a giant clearance section where most of their stuff is, but usually the video games section will have its own clearance section that's small and either in the video game section or nearby. It's very confusing. There's 3 different locations where you might find their clearance game guides and games, but definitely worth checking out to find cheap guides. And after explaining all of that, I should probably mention that I actually found this in the graphic novels. It wasn't even in the clearance section, but it was $4, so that's the right price. Next up is Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam. This is a weird one. There are some games out there that use the Tony Hawk engine like Disney's Extreme Skate Adventure, and there are some Tony Hawk knockoffs like World Tour, and then there's this game. It feels like a bad Tony Hawk imitation game, but it's an official one. The graphics are weird and the stages are not what we've come to expect from this era of the Tony Hawk library. I know that Tony Hawk Ride is where we say the franchise fell off the wagon, but perhaps Downhill Jam was the warning we ignored. Next up is Romance of the Three Kingdoms 11. It's Japanese history mixed with a strategy game. I've played previous games in this series and I'm not really into it, so there's no game footage for it. So instead you get to look at the beautiful case and instruction manual and the disc that I set down so it wouldn't clatter around while I was showing off the game. I generally love strategy games, so I don't know why this series doesn't work for me, but I just have not been able to get into it. Maybe I need to give it another shot? I don't know. This feels like something I would really need to spend like an entire day just playing before I would be able to really truly learn it. Now for a licensed title, Eragon. Linear combo fighter game with cutscenes. It's okay. The game looks nice and the fighting system is fine, but that's just it. Everything about this game is okay. It's not bad, but it is forgettable. Then again, for a game that sells for less than $5, that's alright. Now for the sports titles that I bought but I didn't play. We got Gretzky NHL 2005, NBA 07 The Life, The Bigs, and Sega's NFL 2K2. I do actually regret skipping this game a little bit as it has a Metacritic score of 85 though. There are loads of sports games on the PlayStation 2 and any console for that matter, but they either are crappy or they feel samey. Like I couldn't tell you the difference between any Madden game from one to another. And I'm sure there are Madden fans out there that know all the weird little details, kind of like I know the details between one Tony Hawk game to the next, but I don't know. It's not for me. They're either bad games or they're the same game just re-released every year. That's my opinion. Whenever I do buy a game like this, one of these sports titles or the generic racing titles, I try to set a price limit of $2. I can usually find games like this in a clearance section for $1 or $2, and that's the only time I ever buy them, is when they cost me $1 or $2. Like, if I have to buy it on eBay where there's like $1 plus $3 shipping, I'm not gonna buy it. I don't mess with that on eBay. I just buy that at local stores because these are always in the clearance section. Just like sports games, there are loads of bad racing games that I plan on skipping as well, but for some reason I went ahead and played Suzuki TT Superbikes Real Road Racing Championship. I hated this game. The people that like this game always talk about how realistic it is, but I'm declaring shenanigans. This game is not realistic. Changing gears is absolute garbage. Add to that the narrow raceways, and this game is somewhere between unplayable and obnoxious. Don't play this game. Now for the online games that I didn't capture any footage of, first we have SOCOM US Navy SEALs. I know that this game is well loved, but when I played it back when it was new, it just felt like a giant escort mission, and I know it's a great game, but I didn't like it back then. I don't suspect I'll like it now, so I'm skipping it. And now for a couple of online-only games that are unplayable now. First up, we have Everquest Online Adventures Frontiers. This is an expansion for Everquest for the PlayStation 2. This is the only expansion, unlike Final Fantasy XI, which had 4 expansions. And you know what? I played the crap out of Everquest back in the day, not on the PlayStation 2. I kind of wish this were still open, though. I would probably play it a little bit if it were, but you work with what you got. Speaking of Final Fantasy XI, that's the other game I got. I already own this game, but specifically this is a not for resale variant. I believe these are the ones that came in the bundle with a console, and this one is still sealed, so somebody out there bought a console for Final Fantasy XI and then never opened the game. I'm not entirely sure how that happened. Maybe a game store just broke it open and was selling it off piece by piece, but whatever the situation, I'm happy to have a sealed not for resale copy edition of this game. Now we move into the fighting games segment of this video. First up is Guilty Gear X2. The graphics in this game are fantastic, but without an interactive stage or English voice work, this game falls behind the crowd. Leaving the Japanese voices in is no big deal, but it's clear that this was just a quick port for some quick cash. Next up is Street Fighter Anniversary Collection. I think this is a port of some arcade games from the 16-bit era. I don't really have anything to say about this. It's sort of classic Street Fighter. Now for the King of Fighters 2000-2001. This is one of the few games that will just not capture on my Elgato. It just shows a black screen, so the game is fine. I don't know, I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. It's a fighting game. It's 2 fighting games. It's fun. It's fun enough, but I'm not really into fighting games. And now for the final fighting game in this month's video, Fight Club. This might be the worst PlayStation 2 game. Until now, I've considered Prism the Dark Unicorn the worst game, but this is worse. The gameplay is one-on-one fights that are boring, and when you win, you're treated to cutscene videos like this.
I came to be a part of something. You won't be a part of something, you get your papers straight.
If you ever want to hate the Fight Club movie and book, go ahead and buy this game, as well as the graphic novel for Fight Club 2. Between both of those, the franchise may very well be ruined for you. Now for the last batch of games I don't have footage for. First up is George of the Jungle. I just picked up a sealed copy for a really reasonable price. I already own it, but this one's a better copy. And then there's High School Musical 3 Senior Year Dance. I have the dance pad for it actually, but I didn't have the game. Now I've got the game, so this is one that I don't have footage for because it's a dancing game and I live on a second floor apartment, and also because, you know, the music's copyrighted and I wouldn't be able to share it. It would just be a blank screen or I'd have to change the music or something. Not really worth doing. I own the game. You know what it is. It's a dance pad game, but with High School Musical 3 music, I guess. I don't know. I've never seen it. I don't know anything about High School Musical 3. Oh yeah, and American Idol. I almost forgot about this game, which is easy to do because it has a crappy rating and I'm not trying to record any gameplay of this, so this, I own it. Woo! Back to voiceover time. Let's talk about 007 Quantum of Solace. There are a lot of James Bond games on the PS2. After GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64, they just kept chasing that big game dream for years. These PS2 games are okay. There's some sneaking and some cover tactics on top of the first-person shooter system, as well as the story that unfolds as you play. It's not a bad game, and if you like one of them, you'll like all of them. It also helps that they're easy to find and the prices are low. Give it a shot if you have some time. Now we need to talk about Freestyle Metal X. Look at this cover. Whenever I'm looking through PS2 games at the store, this always catches my eye. On top of being eye-grabbing, it's also a fun game. This is like if you took dirt bikes and stuck them in a good Tony Hawk game. The controls do take some time to master, but the tutorial does a great job of giving you a nice playfield to master the techniques. On top of all that, it's edgy and weird. This game was a nice surprise. Not bad. Not bad at all. Next up is Drakengard. Smash through an army on a boring battlefield while using a crappy map. Then again, this game did well, so I must be missing something. I was planning on saying it only got one sequel, so it must not have been that good, but it turns out this is actually in the same series as Nier Automata, which is a game that I used to own. How strange. Now for Legends of Wrestling. Wrestling games always have a strange control scheme that I haven't yet mastered. What I'm getting at here is that I'm bad at this game. I also don't know who most of these wrestlers are, so between those two things, I was not feeling this title. It is always nice to see Andre the Giant though. What a cool guy. Now for Soul Calibur 3. I don't know why I always think that this isn't a fighting game. The Soul Calibur world has a lot of lore and I had fun playing this game. I'm still not much into fighting games, but if this is a series you enjoy, check out K-Bash's channel. He has a lot of videos about this series. This next game is one that I'm always surprised isn't more expensive, Mega Man X Command Mission. I love that Mega Man got role-playing games. How cool is that? This title falls into the category of, I wish I had more time to play this, which is the same category that Beyond Good and Evil and Dark Cloud 2 are in. What a cool game. And I don't know if anyone notices, but I always save the best game for last, and this month that best game is a kart racer. Jak X Combat Racing is fantastic. This game had me hooked. It was hard to turn off. I remember one of the Crash Bandicoot racers being a lot of fun too, and I may have to compare these two games sometime. So in this video today, we just got through 30 new items that I've added to my collection, 25 of which are games that I didn't already own, which brings my total up to 602 out of 1,796 games for a total of 33.5% of a complete collection. We're getting there, friends. We've passed the 1/3 mark. The collection must be completed. Now that this video's over, thus begins the fun time of sticking all these games back on my shelves. It's getting tricky to rearrange everything. And of course, thank you for watching this video and not mentioning in the comments how late I was at getting this video made.